In some surprising and even breaking news, TJ Dillashaw, who had an opportunity to become a champ by defeating Henry Cejudo back in January, ultimately he lost that fight, but he still retained his bantamweight title. So from then on, there's a lot of interest as far as what he's going to do next, whether he was going to get another rematch at 125 because there's a controversial stoppage, whether he was going to move up to 135 and Henry Cejudo now, after getting the win at 125, would have a chance to be the two-division champ, or if Marlon Moraes would find his way in there. Well, looks like TJ Dillashaw just took himself out of the running for both 25 and 35. As the story says, that TJ revealed an adverse finding from USADA from UFC Brooklyn and that he has to give up his 135-pound title. So let's read the story. So just starting off, he just kind of mentions that Dillashaw revealed that he's going to relinquish his title out of fairness and respect for the division. Now, granted, if he did test positive and if USADA was going to suspend him acting like he's doing this wonderful thing to help out the division is kind of funny. It's like if your car gets repoed and then you're like, you know what, I'm just going to relinquish my car to the state. It's okay. I respect you guys. Like, no, I don't think he's giving up his title so easily unless he knows that he's going to lose it anyway. Now he's trying to kind of save face and look like he's being classy about it. But I mean, I guess technically he could be less classy about it, but I don't know that I give him too much credit for this. Anyway, his message on Instagram said the following: "Tell my fans, I wanted to be the first one to let you know that USADA and the New York State Athletic Commission have informed me of an adverse finding in a test taken for my last fight. While words can't even begin to express how disappointed I am at this time, please know that I'm working with my team to understand what has occurred and how to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. Out of fairness and respect to the rest of my division, I've informed the UFC that I'll be voluntarily relinquishing my title while I deal with this matter. I want to thank all of you in advance for the support." So that's just repeating what it said. It says Dillashaw has also been suspended for a year by the New York State Athletic Commission. The commission released a statement saying the following: the New York State Athletic Commission issued a one-year suspension and a $10,000 fine to Mr. Dillashaw for violations relating to use of a prohibited substance, and we have no further comment. USADA also released a statement. Here's what USADA said. So in light of Mr. Dillashaw's social media post this morning, we can confirm that in an in-competition test conducted by USADA on January 18, 2019, resulted in an adverse analytical finding. In this instance, we are able to confirm the finding due to Mr. Dillashaw's public statement. The presumption of innocence under the rules is a vital part of an effective anti-doping program, and it's only fair that Mr. Dillashaw be allowed due process before any conclusions are drawn. So I actually like that response from USADA. In the past, we had issues where when someone would get popped up, they would make a public announcement, and then later, after they'd kind of investigate, they'd find that someone wasn't guilty. But at that point, it'd be too late because the name would already be ruined. Yoel Romero is a perfect example of this. Granted, he doesn't necessarily pass the eye test, but that's neither here nor there. But he was a perfect example where he tested positive, then they found it was a tainted supplement. So he got a bunch of bad press when he really shouldn't have because it was a tainted supplement. Same thing happened to Tim Means. What's interesting to me here is that they aren't being specific about what was found. So it's not like they're saying he was found having turinabol in the system. Like nothing specific is being highlighted. Right now, we're just kind of having to guess. And the New York State Athletic Commission is saying related to use of a prohibited substance. So the New York State Athletic Commission is specifically saying that it is a prohibited substance that's being used. But USADA is saying, let me see what it has, an adverse analytical finding. Now, could adverse analytical finding also be in reference to a prohibited substance? Sure. Maybe they found that like a certain, again, I'm not like a scientist on this. I don't know like all the specific details on like what's prohibited and what isn't, but maybe they found something where there's an allowable amount in the body, but they found at a certain period of time it was spiked ahead of the allowable amount. Whether or not that indicates use or not, maybe it was a TV or it was like a testosterone to testosterone thing. That's just me guessing. I don't actually know. Nothing was actually given out on that. So it'll be interesting to see what the specific is. One of the first things that I thought of when this happened, though, was back to the coverage of the fight when they were showing TJ Dillashaw and all the supplements he was taking. I wasn't able to find the video where he was like taking it after weigh-ins, but what I did find is this thing on ESPN where they were showing a bunch of pictures of him throughout the weight cut, and there's a picture of all his supplements. So he just kind of get a reminder of how drawn out he looked and how bad he kind of looked health-wise. But from what he was saying, Sam Calvito was taking care of him, and he was doing okay. So we have some pictures here. But the picture of the supplements, it's just absurd. It's this picture right here. So apparently he was taking all of this during his weight cut. So what are the odds that one of these things is tainted and that he might have actually been doing things clean and things just ended up going wrong for him because he had a tainted supplement? I mean, when you're taking this many supplements, the odds of one of them being tainted probably probably not so low. Like there's a decent chance that it might have been a tainted supplement. That's probably what he's looking into. That being said, USADA does have a list of supplements that you can and can't take from certain companies. And I'm assuming, and I think he actually mentioned this before, I think he was saying that these were all approved supplements, or they were all pre-approved. So even then, that probably shouldn't be the case. But if it was a pre-approved supplement, and he can prove that the adverse finding was because of a tainted pre-approved supplement, I don't see how he can be suspended. I don't see why he should be giving up his title. So to me, it seems like there's probably something more to it than just a tainted supplement, even if that's the defense that he publicly goes with. So it'll be interesting from there. As far as what happens next for the 135-pound division, you have a lot of options. I think Marlon Moraes, regardless of who he's going to be fighting, I think you have to put Marlon Moraes in a title fight. As far as who he'd be fighting, Henry Cejudo. The Cejudo fight made sense if he was fighting Dillashaw more so than with him fighting Moraes. So I think you have to keep Cejudo down and have him fight Joseph Benavidez in a rematch of a fight that Benavidez got the split decision win in. I was kind of iffy on that decision, but this time they'll have a chance to go 5 rounds. So I think the next fight for Cejudo is going to be Benavidez. The next fight for Dillashaw is going to be determined once he comes back. But then for Moraes, it looks like Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling have the best cases right now. Because Pedro Munoz hasn't fought against Moraes and Sterling has, I think that kind of pushes Munoz ahead, especially since Munoz just beat Garbrandt, who's a former champion, and is coming off of an impressive knockout win at that. So to me, the fight to make right now is going to be Pedro Munoz versus Marlon Moraes. You might be able to do like Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling now as a potential top contender fight, or a fight that could kind of lead into that. But it'll be interesting to see where they go from there. And it's kind of unfortunate here because TJ Dillashaw, though he is a guy who has been suspected of steroid use for a while, largely by his former teammates, he hasn't tested positive yet. And even if he has been taking steroids, and this is kind of the same issue with John Jones, is that when you watch them fight, they may be gaining some advantages based off of taking illegal substances, but their technique is still impressive. Like a lot of the stuff that you see from TJ Dillashaw, no one else is doing, or they're not doing it at his level. So he's an excellent fighter regardless of his physical attributes. So to see him now being clouded for what will likely be the rest of his career as a steroid user, I think is really going to overlap and kind of take some precedence over a lot of what he's accomplished based off his technique, and that's unfortunate. Same goes for John Jones. A lot of people give John Jones shit for just being a steroid cheat, when in reality, he's also a very special fighter as far as what he does technically, his fight IQ. So it's a bummer that TJ Dillashaw is going to be tainted in this way, even if he did do an illegal substance, because he is an excellent fighter. But ultimately, you got to pass the test. When you don't pass the test, this is what happens in sports, but especially in combat sports and MMA.